And so to look at a few examples of outcomes to kind of pinpoint and look at what is effective about how they're written. And so the first outcome on this slide, students will describe abnormal physiological responses to be aware of in patients with cardiac dysfunction. And so in this case, we want to think about, okay, is it measurable? Can you actually observe this outcome? We have our action verb describe, and we can witness someone describing something. They can describe it in a presentation, in a class discussion, in an essay, and kind of an open-ended question on an exam. So describing something we can actually witness and measure. Is it specific? And so it's specifying what particularly they're going to be describing, the abnormal physiological responses. And this one's helpful in the sense of it does have something that kind of demonstrates its relevance. It mentions to be aware of in patients, which certainly is tied to the concept of what they're actually being asked to do. But also for students in this particular course, it sets up a little bit of the real world context of how they'll be using this in interactions with patients. To go down to a second example, students will be able to play on the keyboard major and minor scales, including natural, harmonic, and melodic forms, the primary triads, and keys to two sharps and flats. And so again, we have a main verb to play. Students are actually doing something that can be measured, can be observed. It's quite specific in the sense of some contexts are set up of what they're playing particularly, the instrument they're using as well. So it's given a helpful specificity to it. On the flip side then, to look at a few ineffective examples, outcomes that have a bit more room for improvement in how they're written. So the first one, students will learn the programming language Python. Similar to the second one, if students will know the elements of the periodic table, the challenge is the way the outcome is written doesn't give a sense to instructors or students how that will actually be measured and demonstrated. And so there's different ways that we can see somebody learn programming language. They might be applying that programming language to code something, to create some sort of program, to create some sort of site. Similarly, with the second outcome there, students will know the elements of the periodic table, or they might be able to identify them among several choices. They might be able to just recite and remember to find several of them. But we want to think about, again, aid students and faculty both, making sure those are measurable outcomes. And then the third one there, students will define the main periods of what is considered classical music and articulate their similarities and differences while while applying the classifications to analyze their influence on contemporary musical genres. The challenge there, as you can tell from my reading it just now, is that there's a lot packed into that particular outcome. Just even visually, it's much, much longer than others on the slide. And the challenge being that it combines several different components that are likely going to be demonstrated separately by students. Things that would be much better off separated out into several chunks rather than all combined into one single long outcome.